This is CBS 11 News Now.
I want to thank you for checking in with us here on our CBS DFW page. I'm Kaley OKelley coming to you live from our Fort Worth studios. All eyes right now here in Texas, though, tonight are on Austin, where a suspected serial bomber strikes again for a fourth time. This time the explosion rocks a quiet neighborhood there, leaving 2 men with injuries. And our Jason Allen has been busy there tonight, out there collecting information. And Jason, thank you for taking some time with us. I know many people here on Facebook are going to be having some questions for you, but from what I understand, you found people nervous just walking around their homes today?
Yeah, Kaylin, you can imagine with something like this, where it was previously defined as a package, right? Something suspicious that ends up in front of your door, on your doorstep, and that's what you're worried about. And now, when you're looking at something that has been placed out in the street, on any street or on a sidewalk, and you've got tripwires, you don't know where to walk. So as people kind of ventured out to see what was going on, they've been stuck in their houses all day, and police telling them to stay in their houses. Part of that was because they wanted to try to go house to house and talk to people. I mean, people are watching where they walk. There were some people who told us they just went down the middle of the street because they knew at least that would be safe. They didn't feel comfortable being on the sidewalk, but they wanted to get out and see what was going on, and they're nervous about where they're stepping out here.
This being the fourth explosion, we're showing some images right now, Jason, of a few of the victims who have died as a result of some of these explosions that have happened there in the Austin area the past couple of weeks. In this case, these 2 men have serious injuries. And what it sounds like investigators are learning now about this explosion is that this serial bomber or these bombers have a new tactic?
Right. So the thought before was maybe this is targeted somehow. It ends up at specific houses. Maybe there's a connection between the victims. Maybe they know each other, or family members know each other through the community. Maybe there is a racial or ethnic element to some of the targets. But this bomb was placed not in front of a specific house necessarily, but the police chief said along a fence line and with that tripwire attached. So anybody who walked across it could have potentially triggered it and become a victim. In this case, it was those 2 men who were both white men in their 20s and just kind of walking along with their bikes. But that could have been a child going down the street. That could have been somebody out walking their dog. And so it moves, Kaylee, in the direction of potentially specific targets to somebody who's just out to cause damage to anybody who happens to walk by. And that's a totally new direction for investigators.
I want to just address some of these people who are chiming in on our Facebook page tonight on CBS DFW. Donna Hayes says, praying this horrible monster will be caught and punished before others are harmed. Of course, I would imagine that's a sentiment for all of us, right? May God bless and protect all first responders. And now Stacey Badesky is saying, wow, a tripwire, so scary. And gosh, I think we would both agree with that.
Yeah, it is scary, and I think what you'll find in some of the reporting that we're doing tonight, and some of the other reporting the staff that we have is doing tonight, is that is some really high end work, and that is not something that you just get lucky on and get right the first time. That is somebody who clearly has some skills and who knows what they're doing, and police believe is somebody who is trying to send a message, and we've heard them a couple times now very publicly. They did it first last night right after the explosion, and again today. They have opened themselves up and said, whoever you are, if you want to talk to us, if you want to open up a line of dialogue, let's do that. Let's understand what's going on here. Let's understand what you're after. And I think that kind of shows where police are in this, that they are still trying to search for a potential motive and profile this person and doing anything they can to track them down before we have another one of these go off in this area.
Absolutely. Again, we're getting a lot of Facebook comments, Jason. Let's see. Zachary Van Winkle saying, I believe this is a random tripwire bomb was to keep this from being a hate crime. Another person asking if investigators are indicating that it could be terrorism. What are you hearing? I know that you've been in touch with some of these investigators, but I would imagine at this point in the investigation, they have to remain tight-lipped.
They do to some extent, and there have been some calls today asking them very explicitly, can you now say that this is domestic terrorism? And what's happened here, and I think this is especially because of what happened after the very first bombing, when police said it was an isolated incident, and then it turned out not to be.
Right.
That they're being very, very careful about how they characterize it. So they did say again today they are not ruling out domestic terrorism. They're still not ruling out the potential of a hate crime in that's still a possibility. So, yeah, they're hedging a little more on defining this and exactly what it is. But no, we have heard those questions about it. Is it time for police to call this terrorism? You could just see, Kaley, the heavy presence, and you probably saw that in some of our video today, just of the number of ATF and FBI that are out here. I mean, there are 500 plus agents. And they are, as you drove through some of these neighborhoods today, you'd go and you'd see 2 ATF agents at every other house. Just out with people in their yard, asking them. And they were out at houses at 11 o'clock last night. They were knocking down doors and waking people up and saying, no, you need to get up and come talk to us. People who were, a half mile away from the bomb and saying, just asking them, where have you been all day? Who did you see today? Anything out of the ordinary? Did you notice anything? All of those questions, and they're going to every single house around here and doing that. So you can see that they don't want to leave anything the chance that they might miss something. They're going after any detail, no matter how small.
I would imagine folks who live in this particular neighborhood are probably grateful that they're trying to, for lack of a better term, leave no stone unturned. I want to continue to share some of these comments and questions with you. Jason, let's see. Carolyn Walters saying hello from Mesquite. Carolyn Taylor Hernandez saying, wow, so scary. Janine Tillery, thank you for this one. Another one, prayers, praying this horrible monster. We talked about that one. And this one I thought was a good point, one I believe we should address. Kristen Chad Koch, thank you for chiming in. She says, awful. In Waco, scared to open deliveries from Amazon. I think it's important that we talk about the nature of at least some of these bombs that we've seen so far and what they look like.
Right. In the beginning last week, police were being a little bit more specific with it and saying if you see a package on your front porch that doesn't have anything on it, you weren't expecting it, just leave it there. Don't touch it. That message has changed a little bit with this latest bomb. And to be clear, none of these packages have been delivered. They've checked with USPS, the post office, UPS, FedEx, all those delivery services to make sure that nothing has been delivered. It's been somebody else who's been putting something there. But they changed the message a little bit today, Kaley, now saying not necessarily even it's just boxes anymore, but any object. It could be a bag, could be a suitcase, could be a box, could just be something that you see attached somewhere or up against an object that just looks out of place. They really don't want to define it anymore, and a lot of that is because of this latest incident and because the tactic has changed so much.
Well, it's great that they're at least giving us that kind of information. But my question for you is, Austin's a pretty big city here in our state. Is this primarily just in one general area of the city where we're seeing this happen, or is it sort of sporadic all over in different neighborhoods of Austin?
The first bombings were in one area, if you can call the entire east side one area.
Okay.
That's a big area.
Yes.
But it started on the northeast side, and then the east central side, and then the southeast side. So everything was confined east of 35. This one is now in the west, and it's on the southwest part of the city. So it's moved over to the other side of 35. It's kind of going in that clockwise direction there, starting from the northeast part of the city and sort of moving around. So, yeah, we are seeing it in a different location. Neighborhoods, first couple of neighborhoods were decent, nice middle-class neighborhoods. The third one, maybe lower middle class, and I'd say heavily Hispanic in that area. This one, back to a normal middle-class neighborhood. So there's nothing really that stands out necessarily about the neighborhoods either. Which
has to be making it even more difficult for investigators there.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't, especially with this, where it doesn't seem to be a target. At least before, they could look at specific houses and see if there were connections between the victims in all of those cases that might lead them somewhere. In this case, it was anyone. Anyone who could have been out on the sidewalk could have hit that tripwire.
My goodness. And, someone's saying, can you even see a tripwire? That's the problem. I don't think you could, right? That's what's so scary about this.
It could be as small as a fishing line, and you know how those are designed to, not have fish see them. So it could be a very, very thin filament line like that you wouldn't see until it was too late.
Jason, real quickly, I just want to say something. My producer was talking in my ear. There are some people saying, well, wait a minute, you just ran a commercial on your Facebook page. That was an accident, and we do apologize for that because we were right in the middle of you making a point about some of the neighborhoods that these investigators must be at least taking a closer look at, trying to figure out if there's some sort of pattern here.
Right, so I'll go over that again. So the neighborhoods, it started in the north. It mostly was on the east side to start. It started in the northeast part of the city, and then kind of the east central part, and then the southeast part of the city. This one's different because it's on the west side of 35, so it's moved over. They've kind of happened in this clockwise direction around the city. I wouldn't say that there's anything that's outstanding about this particular neighborhoods that have been hit. The first couple were middle-class neighborhoods. The third one, maybe a little bit lower middle class and more heavily Hispanic in that area. And then this latest one is back to a middle-class neighborhood built in the 70s. Most of the homes here in the 70s and 80s. And again, here on the west side. So nothing really stands out about any of those locations that would connect everything. All
right. We know that you're out there working to get information. Can you give us an idea on what your focus is for CBS 11 News tonight at 10 o'clock?
Sure. One of the things that you saw in our news at 5 and 6 was you saw a home video, a very quick clip, and you heard that you could hear the explosion. And police put out a request today asking for those videos and trying to get more things like that. So we've got an update from them tonight, and we'll be telling you more about that at 10.
Oh, one more thing, William Chester Smith. You guys, we really appreciate these questions because it does help to answer all of, at least a lot of the concerns that that are out there. Let's see. It says, William Chester Smith. Are they using everyday store-bought products? Are the investigators talking about that yet?
They're not talking about the specifics of the way that the bombs have been put together, no. And because they're trying to, and when we asked about that, they said they're trying to keep the message to things that could be important for people to be safe and to recognize. So they're keeping that close to the vest as far as exactly what elements that the packages or the bombs are being made of.
Okay, and any talk of whether or not any other parts of Texas, North Texas, I mean, really any other parts of Texas at risk of bombings like this?
Well, nothing right now, but I know that you've seen some of those warnings going out from North Texas, you know, in Dallas, and we've seen them from South Texas too. I mean, just because it's just happening here, I suppose doesn't mean it can't happen anywhere else. But as of right now, there is no information that we've heard down here that leads anyone to believe that there would be a bombing somewhere else. I'm not aware of any information that authorities had that any of these were going to happen until they did.
You know, someone was asking about this young man that we're showing in our video who is in this suit, and I think it's important that we mention his story. His name is Draylon Mason, and he died back on March 12th as a result of one of these bombs that ended up, I believe it was on his doorstep, correct?
Yeah, he was on his doorstep, and that was one of the bombs that when he was able to actually pick it up and take it inside the house, and I believe start to open it before it exploded, and it killed him and it injured his mother. And then it was Anthony House 10 days before that picked one up on his front porch and exploded and killed him there on the front porch.
Well, we appreciate your time. Again, this happening in Austin, Texas tonight. Again, know you're busy out there working to get us information. We appreciate you stopping to answer some of these questions from our viewers who are here with us on Facebook Live tonight. Be careful out there, Jason Allen. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks, Kaley. We'll see you at 10.
See you at 10. All right. Want to check in right now with Jeff Ray. My little boy called me not long ago. He's 6 years old. Mom, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow?
And just expecting that just off the top of the head.
That's all they're thinking about. They want to know if they're wearing the shorts and the T-shirts because, you know, all the kids have been off on spring break.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, this is top of mind as we're approaching bedtime for kids.
And they're probably being told, oh, spring starts tomorrow. So, right, it's going to be 80 tomorrow.
See?
Right? So after 89 days of winter.
Yes.
And who counts?
Right.
But it was 89 days, and as your 6-year-old probably reminds you, and no measurable snow.
Yes, they were bummed.
Spring does start tomorrow at 11:15. That's actually the equinox, and it's based on the sun angle according to the surface of the Earth. The meteorological spring actually starts March 1st because we base that on temperatures. But anyway, Remember the severe weather threat we had all weekend, right?
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday. These thunderstorms rolled across northern Alabama across the afternoon. They had long track tornadoes. Tornadoes are on the ground for some time. They continue with tornado watches and warnings. They're going on still at this hour, and anticipate even to get to Atlanta before we get through past midnight, actually. But around here, we just watched the clouds clear away and had a nice day. A lot of sunshine. Actually had 2 cold fronts that came through here.
Wow.
The second one came through here just at the end of the day and actually dropped the temperatures 4 or 5 degrees in rapid order. Tomorrow morning, as spring starts tomorrow, you'll need a coat.
Okay.
It's going to be in the low 40s.
All right.
It'll be a little breezy.
Okay.
So I would tell your children to dress warm.
All right, in layers maybe.
I would say layers,
okay,
because we're actually going to get into the upper 60s, which is a pleasant enough day.
Oh, that's nice.
I wouldn't say a warm day.
Right.
A little breezy, but look at Wednesday, mid-70s, and Thursday near 80 degrees, and we're off to the races. By the way, I don't know if you've heard that there's going to be a big storm that's going to hit California in the next 48 hours.
Wow.
46 inches of rain.
Is this El Nino type stuff we're seeing out there?
No, this is just kind of an atmospheric river coming over southern California.
That's a lot of rain for the Central Coast.
That is as much rain as they get in some of those locations in like a couple of months.
Yes.
They're going to get it in a couple of days. Now, these are fire burn areas. There were terrible fires here during the winter, so they're evacuating areas.
Well, yeah, that we saw the mudslides
there.
Yeah,
so in anticipation of that happening again, they're saying get out, and that's around Santa Barbara. They're actually evacuating. This is going to be the 4th nor'easter in 3 weeks.
Way. Are you
Welcome to spring, New England.
Oh, my gosh.
Wednesday by 7 o'clock, that's the rush hour commute. There will be 7 inches of snow in New York, and the snow really gathering in Boston, and it'll just be digging out at it Thursday morning.
And they're still digging out.
Yeah. I mean, they still got snow on the ground there, and they're going muttering to themselves, spring? What spring?
They're saying, I want to move to Texas.
We enjoyed a little bit of rain over the weekend. It was really the first rain we'd had in March of its significance, so everything suddenly got green. No rain in the forecast for a while. Dry, windy, and warm Thursday and Friday. I mean, like in the 80s. Then a frontal boundary comes towards us, so there's a slight chance, a little bit of rain in our east-southeast corner, but a better chance of rain Sunday, and that's really our next good chance of rain, of course, on the second half of the coming weekend, the first weekend of spring. You see that in the 7-day forecast. Look at these warm temperatures.
Really nice. I'm thinking of the soccer games for soccer parents out there. And the softball games.
Yeah, that you're going to have to dress for summer.
Right.
Here in
it's
spring.
Nice. And lather on the sunscreen.
Let's talk about these warm temperatures just a little bit. Okay. All right, so if we look at March 1st to the end of April.
Yeah.
All right, those 60 days, 61 days of spring. Those first 2 months of spring.
The initial hit,
all
yes.
Right. Now, DFW records go back 118 years. Of the 10th warmest starts to spring, 4 of them have happened in the last 7 years.
Wow.
Last 7 years, we've had 4 of the warmest starts to spring on record, and those records go back 118 years. So not much of a chance, I think, of some cold weather still.
Okay.
With the forecast for the end of March and April is for above normal conditions, and we are right now have above normal temperatures for the month of March. So we might get into the top 10 with this.
Any sign of what might be to come for summer?
Quite honestly, a warm spring is no indication of a hot summer.
Okay.
Those are 2 different things come into play. So we'll keep you posted. When we get a little bit closer, I'll start putting together some numbers. And what we do, we look at climate patterns from the past based on the state of La Nina or El Nino, where we are, and a couple of the ocean circulations. And we try to find similarities between that setup and what has happened in the past.
Right.
And there is some indication that we'll have kind of an average summer, temperature-wise.
All right.
We've had kind of cool summers in the big picture. You know?
Oh, yes.
So we're kind of due some warmer weather, but I don't think it's going to be hot.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just my first.
Well, hot by our standards is hot.
4 summers ago, right?
4 summers ago.
I'm trying to think. Was it 4 summers ago?
No. Well, 3 summers ago it was hot.
When we had the most 100-degree days ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, but it's like we don't want to remember.
Who's going to forget? Right?
That's why we say, oh, I don't know.
It was forever ago.
It was a long time.
We don't remember those things. Makes us happier, right? Make you happier? All right, you guys, we're going to thank you. I always love the extra insight that you give, by the way, don't you? Because it's great. I mean, it makes us sort of think ahead.
Yeah, and you see why no one invites me to lunch ever.
No, you can come to lunch. Oh, well, listen, I'll geek out with you when it comes to climatology.
To quote Professor Snipe as he was dressed in Hermione, "You're an insufferable bore."
No, you're not. Stop. All right, we're going to go in the newsroom. Come in the newsroom. Hang out with us.
No, I have stuff to do. I got to
very busy.
Get ready.
He's very busy. We'll see you, CBS 11 News, 10 o'clock.
Bye.